Okay, work is really intense right now, and so I don't have a lot of time today. So instead of trying a new game from scratch and exploring the first hour like I often do, let's just do a quick tour of Disco Elysium. This is the game that has been preventing me from starting The Outer Worlds because I didn't want to break into my recall of the story, this complicated story that's going on. I'm just afraid if I start another big story-centric RPG, I'm going to forget what's going on in Disco Elysium. I'm not going to be able to enjoy it as well. So I'm insisting that I'm going to finish this game before I move on to anything else of its caliber. But there aren't a lot of things of its caliber. Disco Elysium is kind of it's an interesting mashup of like a top-down, like Obsidian-style role-playing game and an adventure game because it's not really about tactical combat or anything like that. It's got a lot of the trappings of that kind of RPG, but it's telling a different kind of story. So I don't want to load my current save because I don't know, probably about a third of the way into the game, maybe a quarter, I can't really tell. But I've already discovered things that were fun to discover, and I don't want to spoil them. So let's start a brand new game from scratch, and we'll talk about how this game works. So you play this character who is nameless at the outset, and there's lots of different ways this character can behave. So instead of choosing one of these presets, let's go to create your own so we can talk about how they work. All right, so there's 4 basic stats that you have. You can't see behind my face here, but it says intellect. So you got your intellect, you got your psyche, you got your physique, and you've got your motorics, or motorics? Maybe it's motorics. So your intellect, it's like your braininess, your logic, that kind of thing. Psyche is more like your emotional intelligence. Physique is how tough you are. Motorics is how, easily you can do fine manipulative things. But all of these are psychological. Don't let the fact that one of them is named Psyche and only one of them is named Psyche fool you. These are all psychological traits. So in my game that I'm playing at home, I decided to really go low on physics and motorics, and instead went really super high on Psyche and almost as high on intellect. They set it up so that basically you could do 2 completely high and 2 completely low, or any combination in between. I should probably go for something that's significantly different from what I experienced the first time through, especially for a reason that I'm going to bring up a little bit later. So, okay, so let's say instead of let's go the opposite direction on Psyche and use it to beef up something else. Like maybe I can be just a big, clumsy... No, okay, you know what this is? This is... what do they call him? Professor Hulk? This is Professor Hulk. So I'm going to be Professor Hulk. And we will get started. So, all right. So now they're going to break it down even further. I get to select a signature skill, which is the one that it gets some extra room to improve. And let's see here. Anyway, start with a +1 bonus. So you'll notice that each of the 4 major stats has got 6 skills associated with it. And these are not just skills. These, 24 things? Each of these actually is kind of a personality, or it's like a homunculus that lives in your head. It's a basically, I don't know if you've ever done the thing. I do this all the time, where I talk to myself, and there are different different things that I desire, or different ways that I could perceive the world or approach my choices that could have arguments with each other. That's what these are. These are 24 different aspects of your character's personality that each of them individually has a point of view, and they argue with each other inside your head, or they make suggestions to you while you're making decisions, and you decide basically which wolf to feed. You decide, which ones you're going to listen to and which ones you're going to argue with, and that is how you sort of shape up as a character. And so it's not really about... this game does have die rolling against skill checks, like any RPG, which is why it's kind of classified as an RPG. But the meaning of those rolls is not just about like overcoming physical obstacles. So a few times it's like that. It's mostly about deciding which aspects of your personality work out and what it means to your character. So it's like they've got all of these standard RPG elements that are usually purely mechanical or tactical, and they're feeding them all into your character development, which I find absolutely fascinating. So for instance, like Esprit de Corps represents your basically your connection to the culture of police officers. You're a police officer, and so this is your identity as a police officer, which is different from, say, empathy, which is your ability to understand other people and their motivation, which is versus rhetoric, which is like how good you are at persuading and getting into arguments, versus pain threshold, which this is a practical skill and it's a physical skill, but it's also a character that will talk to you in your head. Shivers is your sort of sense of the paranormal and your sense of, whenever, I remember when I was in high school, I used to read like books about the paranormal and about aliens and ancient aliens and stuff like that. I thought it was fascinating. And that part of your brain that kind of turns on, that's what Shivers is. So these are all over the place. Okay, so I decided that my top trait was going to be physique. So I should probably pick a physique skill or maybe an intellect skill to be my primary skill here. So it's endurance. This is the one that directly affects your hit points. Half-light is, your ability to threaten people. You know what? Maybe I should just be a completely different kind of character than I played before. I chose empathy my first time through. So I think the opposite of that is probably half-light. So let's set that as my signature skill, and we'll get into the game. I'm not dead certain I've picked the right place to stick my head, so I might end up having to move around. The Furies are at home in the mirror. It is their address. Even the clearest water, if deep enough, can drown. Begin.
There is nothing. Only warm primordial blackness.
I'm not sure how well you can hear this
Your
voice.
conscious ferments in it. No larger than a single grain of malt. You don't have to do anything anymore.
So we're starting by introducing the idea that your skills can talk to you like they're parts of your own personality, by introducing the most basic levels of your psychology.
Never, ever.
And this also highlights basically almost everything in the game is handled through the dialogue system. Even physical interactions with objects are handled through the dialogue system so that your personalities can be commenting on and responding to everything you're doing. And so that all of your physical skills, which are also characters, can be relevant to everything that you're doing. So I can either continue not existing or engage with this character. I'm just going to keep not existing.
An inordinate amount of time passes. It is utterly void of struggle. No ex-wives are contained within it.
Wait, what was that? X something?
An awareness creeps up on you. A mass lies hidden in your dead angle.
Okay, so there's a new part of my brain that's now talking to me.
Loaded and shameful, a pool of meat surrounding you. This is a terrible line of questioning, and it will only lead to more awareness.
Oh, shush, limbic system. I want to hear about my ex-wife.
Ex-tenderness. It is foolish of you to resurface to the loss.
No, I want to get off now. I like pain. Let me off.
I'd like it if I told you what was back there. Why'd you think you had to bludgeon yourself into oblivion? Or did you not scent yourself marinating? Poured so much.
I don't care, I'm an idiot.
A sore, bloated man meet around like a fly.
So I'm trying to rush through this so we can actually start seeing the game.
Conscience sticks to it. The limbed and headed machine of pain and undignified suffering is firing up again.
There's a head attached to my neck, and I'm in it.
Your mouth, and with it, an ungodly headache. A fiery streak penetrates your skull.
Okay, I've just heard a car outside, and now I'm waking up. So that conversation was weird, but basically it was me being unconscious and parts of my brain telling me that I should stay unconscious and me fighting to wake up. So here I'm waking up, having been unconscious in a hotel room, and what am I gonna do? So, Cloudcraft just joined us. Thanks for coming in. So let's look around. So these little targets represent thoughts that I can have about things in the environment. A magnum-sized bottle of Commodore Red is empty. Looks like someone tore out the tape while the song was playing. This reel-to-reel tape player is still on, rolling empty. So I can hold tab to highlight things that I can interact with in the environment. So for instance, here's a single shoe. I've got it. And it looks like I've automatically put it on my foot. What else do we have? We've got some pants. So, put my pants on. Looks like we've got a jacket. Oh, wait. First, there's a thought that I'm having about what I just did right here. So my hearing is telling me you hear a jingle. Keys are clinking in the pocket of your flare-cut pants. I've got keys. It says whirling in rags on the aluminum key ring. There's a single key on the ring. The number 1 is etched on it. It should open the door. Okay, so basically that was how they keep me from leaving before I figured out pants. So that's great. Oh, what's this? The window stands broken in its frame. Cold wind blows in. Let's assess the damage. So this is using visual calculus. This is my ability as a cop to analyze crime scenes and guess what's going on. And they always have alternate versions of the art that show up on the terrain when I'm using it, which is great. Very expensive feature to implement, but it's great. So did I break this? What did this then? So it looks like I threw something through this window. It's too large for a bullet, too small for a piece of furniture. You're looking for something heavy and larger than your fist. The single green shoe you found fits the hole almost as well as your foot. It would also have been heavy enough if thrown with force. So I think I threw my shoe out the window. The funny thing is, I didn't get the option to click on this the first time I played the game. This is new to me, which makes me think that, oh yeah, so, I might not have had high enough visual calculus the first time through to get that option. Or maybe it's perception. That's right. So did you notice that most of the interactive items in the background were highlighted green? This one was highlighted yellow. It means that I could see it because my yellow skills, which is my motoric skills, allowed me to see it. So basically now that I've leveled my motorics up to 5, no, these weren't 5. No, it's physique I got to 5. So I'm not sure, actually, because I don't think I actually made them particularly good this time around. Oh, well, my explanations are bad. I don't know what's going on. That's okay. That's how I'm supposed to feel right now during this game. I should go get that shoe. So now I've got a new task to find my other shoe, which shows up in my notebook. Lovely. Find your other shoe. This notebook gets very, very full. There are so many different parallel threads going on in this story, and you need this notebook to keep track of them. I also have my inventory here, where my items fall into several categories, clothes being one of them. If I'm not feeling like wearing pants, I don't actually have to wear pants if I don't want to. Oops. So let's look around. What else do we have here? We've got my jacket. Let's take that. Yeah, I think that's really good. Let's look over here in the bathroom. I have a thought about this tub. See bottles in the bathtub, wine, beer, and sweet liqueurs. Oh, I've got a shirt. You'll notice that each of these items of clothing actually has stat effects, like wearing my disco-ass blazer, which I love the way they name things in this game. It's kind of funny because there's also a 70s-ass trailer, I think 70s-ass motorhome or something like that in State of Decay 2, which I named. And so this almost feels like I named this jacket. It's very much in my style. So this reduces my ability to make suggestions, but increases my conceptualization. So I don't necessarily need to wear this shirt right now. I don't need my shoe on. It's fine. What else we got? We got a mirror. Notice that my face down here is very hard to see. So somebody has damaged the sink. Not surprised. Let's wipe the mirror. And let's just get over it. There's my face! My big, ugly mug. Right there. So now I can finally see my face down in the corner, which I think is great. My character has got amnesia. And so nothing in this game is clear to him. He's got the kind of amnesia. He hasn't just forgotten the details of his life. He's forgotten concepts like what is a crime and what is money, which is, I mean, you can act like you haven't forgotten those things, but you can also act like you have. And some of the best conversations in the game come from you just saying crazy things. In fact, there's a loading screen tip in the game that says, don't be afraid to say crazy things because people will forgive you. You're a cop, you're an authority figure, and it's more fun that way. So I get to react to this however I want. So you have no idea who this thing is, do you? I can say, "Dear Lord, help me. What is this?" I can say, "Of course I do. It's some kind of superstar. I think I'm a superstar." This is the face of a late-stage alcoholic. So I'm going to say I'm a superstar. It appears you're also dead. There's clearly rigor mortis on your face. Oh, wait, is that an expression? Are you trying to make an expression with that face? Why? I think it might be because I'm a superstar. Please stop. It's horrible. You're scaring yourself. No, this is what superstars do. You can't, can you? It's like it's not even voluntary anymore. You have worn that grin into your face, and now it won't come off. What does it even mean? What's the emotion you're trying to convey? Superstardom, obviously. You should check yourself for a pulse, superstar. From here, it looks like a cadaverous spasm. Check for a pulse. I got some experience from that. So here's a couple of opportunities to use skills. I've got encyclopedia, dig deep into your mind to locate the source of the expression, or electrochemistry, attempt to stop the expression from happening. So electrochemistry is your love of drugs. So apparently my love of drugs is not yet high enough for me to do anything there. So these skills, obviously, these skill checks are very low. The way the skill checks work is these are white skill checks, which means I can try them multiple times as long as I level up the skill in between. So let's say I'm trying to dig deep into my mind for the source of the expression. 28% chance of success. I fail, of course, but this is sitting here and it's locked until I upgrade my encyclopedia skill. So I just got to level myself up, upgrade the skill, come back, and I can try it again. So nothing is ever fully cut off for me until I've actually maxed a skill out. So let's leave the mirror be for now. I'll come back to it later. What else is going on in here? Oh, so this was kind of a fun moment. I've got this fan up here I can interact with. So this fan has two chain pull switches. One ends in a tiny fan, the other in a light bulb. A truly horrific necktie has somehow attached itself to one of the blades. So I can grab the tie. I've got about even odds of doing it. I failed. And now what? You reach out to grab the tie, but what's this? Diffuse radiating chest pain. Doom comes over you. Grab your chest. This is bad. Feels like sharp stones grinding into your chest and keeping you from moving for quite a long time. Still ongoing. Now's a good time to start worrying. Finally, the pressure recedes. You find yourself covered in a cold sweat and trying not to move, hoping it will keep you from dying. Okay, so I can't grab the tie anymore without more savoir-faire. So I can pull on the fan. Oh, the blades come squeaking to a halt. So now I've turned the fan off. So now, because I turned off the fan, that changed the conditions of the skill check. So now I can try again. And this time I succeed. So let me tell you what happened the first time I played. So remember I told you that I played a character who's primarily empathetic, also had most of their intellect, and I think I had 1 point into motorics and nothing into physique. And because I had nothing into physique, my health, which is down here in the bottom left corner, instead of having 5 pips where I just lost a pip and then got it back, I had only 1 pip. And because I only had 1 pip of health, when I had that heart attack, I literally died. And the game was over. And I was just sitting there stunned looking at the main menu like, what? And so I started again with all the same conditions, and this time did not grab the tie until I had turned off the fan. And then that made it work just fine. So that's the kind of game this is. It will do weird things to you. And you know, and I end up just loving the punishment because it's so cleverly delivered. And I mean, the writing in this game is really, really good, as you'll see if you play it. Cloudcraft says, I would have paid to see that moment. And actually, Shankiro asked the question, any chance you will do streaming on the weekends? The challenge with me on weekends is the fact that I am covered in children. And so it's very difficult for me to get time to stream that doesn't involve other people who didn't necessarily sign on to be on a stream, moving in and out of the background of my computer is in a very open area of my house. I also have a 5-year-old son who loves to climb into my lap and become the star of streams. So I can't do a very focused or effective demonstration of a game with that kind of distraction. So it's hard for me to stream on the weekends, especially the next couple of weekends. I actually think I'm going out of town, so I definitely can't do it anytime soon. But in theory, as my children mature, it might be possible for me to start doing it more on the weekends, and I would love to. Or maybe I'll just stream with no picture, so there's nothing to attract with no camera, so there's nothing to attract my son into thinking he's a superstar. Speaking of superstars, back to being this idiot. Okay, so I've got my tie now. So I think what I'm wearing right now, I've got the underpants, the jacket, the tie, the socks. I think we're good. I think this is what I should wear downstairs. So let's go figure out what's going on. Do. Oh, hey, who's this person?
Hello, officer.
I actually know who this person is. So I'm going to talk to her. Her name is Klasia. Miss Orania Disco Dancer is a thing that I call her in other contexts. The young woman raises a cigarette to her lips. So I'm just going to turn my bloated face away from her and keep walking. I can run. Oh, wait, what's this? This is the weekend edition of the satirical newspaper Trompe du Monde. Nothing in the front page rings a bell. Strange. So, okay, so down here is the thoughts department. I don't think I'll get to this. I might actually have to load a previous save to show you this particular feature. But whenever I see one of these little green thoughts appear, like right here, whenever I see one of these, I get excited because I've actually unlocked an ability in my main game where I get money every time I look at one of these things. The game's got some abstract stuff going on, but it's such a surreal sort of storytelling that there isn't anything they do that doesn't feel like it sort of fits in some way or another. Shankiro suggests I should probably get some pants, and Cloudcraft is reminding Shankiro that I had pants. I own pants. I've just chosen not to wear them. This is kind of liberating, actually, because, in my first game, it's like I want to do a really good job of it, and I want to play this character the way that, in a way that feels natural to me. And so my version of this character is very much like, the way I imagine myself, or at least my idealized version of myself. And so I don't do a lot of the crazier stuff. And so I'm deliberately making this character weird because he's doing things that I didn't do when I first played through the game. Let's talk to this guy. This is Gart, the cafeteria manager. A man in his late 20s stands behind the counter, inspecting a stuffed seabird. As you approach, he gives you a sideways glance, then looks down again. Okay, empathy, failure. So, let's see here. So apparently I was aiming for a check of 8, and I missed it. My total was 7. I'm not actually sure. Let's look at how this works. I haven't actually looked into how these work. So, empathy. Oh yeah. So I made my psyche 1. And so I think I think they just did like a nice average roll of 2 dice, and so I got a 6. So 6 plus my 1 empathy was not enough to satisfy the requirements, which means, so under normal conditions, when you're talking to someone, the different parts of your personality, the different skills that you have, will give you hints about how you should talk to them, and will sometimes open up new dialogue options based on those skills. So here, empathy tried to give me a new option and failed. So it's like, everything is cool between you and this guy. He's a big fan. Make some small talk. So you imagine if I'd succeeded at empathy, it might have told you, this guy doesn't like me. I've made his life difficult. I'm a passed out drunk in his hotel, which means I've probably done other things that are wrong prior to that, and he might not like me. So I'm like, are you the bartender?
No. I'm not the bartender. I'm the cafeteria manager.
You look like a bartender.
That period of my life is over. Not everyone who stands behind a counter is a bartender, okay? I'm the cafeteria manager.
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's a stuffed bird. One of its wings is broken, and he's trying to mend it. Looks like the bird has ripped off the shield that was used to mount it, most likely on the wall. What happened to the bird?
Look, your buddy is over there. Why don't you go and talk to him, okay?
I'll talk to whoever I please. Okay, so I might have broken that bird, and that might be why he's annoyed at me, but he's not saying anything about it. So he says that my buddy is over here in an orange jacket. Who's that? Ah, here he is. Kim Kitsuragi. A bespectacled man in an orange bomber jacket is tapping his foot on the floor. He looks like he's waiting for someone. You. As you approach, he narrows his eyes and extends his hand in greeting. Shake his hand.
Hello. I'm Kim Kitsuragi, Lieutenant, Precinct 57. You must be from the 41st.
Okay, so using my conceptualization skill, I can make up a name for myself, apparently. I failed at doing this in the original game. Let's see, in my original playthrough. Let's see if it works. Yes! Concentration makes you squint your eyes. Your name should be a deep golden orange, like a forest fire looming on the horizon, but mixed with a stench of liquor rising from your breath. You're 2 steps closer to it, but there's still many to go. It is not yet time.
Okay then. It looks like we had a little scheduling error on Sunday. Saturday too, actually. Have you had time to talk to the manager here?
So he's been okay, so my skill with rhetoric has told me what this means. He's been trying to meet up with me for 2 days, and I have not been responding. Oh, you mean
If you
him?
don't mind, we should talk to him again. Ask him for a rundown of the area. Now that I'm here as well. I understand the scene is out back, right? It also wouldn't hurt to assure him the police are finally here. In full force, I mean. Have you mapped out the initial interviews?
Oh, yes, I have, definitely.
Good. But even if you haven't, we'll have time for that after we take a look at the coroner's case. Have you removed the dead body from the tree?
Completely.
Completely? Does that mean you took the body down from the tree?
Look, man, yeah.
Does that mean the body is no longer in the tree?
No.
So the body is still in the tree.
Okay, so the situation is, there's a dead body here, a murder. I was supposed to investigate it. Instead, I had a massive breakdown in Bender, and I am completely amnesiac. I have no idea what's going on, and I have to put this all together from scratch. Not an uncommon setup for a video game, helping a player who's new to the story get acquainted with everything, but it's such a cliche. Instead of playing it seriously, they're playing it for comedy and getting you into every stupid situation you can get into as a completely sort of silly, cocksure person who is an amnesiac who doesn't know anything about the world. So I really like the fact that even though they decided to go with something that is very cliched, they didn't, they didn't push. They didn't just sort of fall into the cliche and do it in a normal way. They really leaned into it hard in a comedic way, and it works for me.
Where it has been hanging for 7 days straight. We should go there as soon as we are done talking to the owner.
Okay, let's get going. So I'm kind of out of time, which is fine. Oh wait, I'm gonna check my underpants for a badge. Oh, I have my badge. I am a policeman, and I found my badge. If you didn't have your badge, it'd be very bad. But since you do have it, we can go straight to the task at hand. All right. If he hasn't said anything about your lack of pants, no one will. You're only hurting yourself by not wearing them. So this is kind of the game talking to me and saying, all right, yeah, sure, it's funny that you're not wearing pants. We're not doing anything about your pants. We're not going to have an entirely different set of dialogue options for every single character responding to your lack of pants. Just go put some pants on, you idiot. Okay, so he's in my party. I can talk to him anytime I want to by clicking on him. And so this is the setup of the game. And so I don't... Ooh, what was that? What's this? The soft purr of an electric juicer comes from the kitchen. Someone is working in the kitchen. Okay, cool. Anyway, I always want to click on every single one of those little thoughts that appear over my head. So this is the setup of the game. You've got this completely straight-laced partner from another precinct who doesn't know you very well, who's a serious cop trying to really investigate this crime. You are a crazy person who's just had a nervous breakdown, and your psyche is ready to spin off in any direction that it wants to. You've got tons of dialogue options that are just either haranguing people or saying crazy, self-promoting things, or just being an idiot, and it's wonderful, or you can actually be very serious and compassionate. There's all kinds of different ways you can play this character, and all of them are mechanically relevant to the game, and sort of expand your options going forward in lots of different directions simultaneously. And this is not like doesn't have the feel of a game where you're making binary moral choices along two different distinct paths. You have to choose one or the other. There's so many simultaneous different paths that are all mutually compatible that while, yeah, you can't do everything, it doesn't feel like it's locking you into a commitment to do one thing at the expense of everything else. You always feel like you have a ton of freedom. And so I don't want to go any further with the story, partly because I don't have any time, and partly just because I was so thrilled at discovering it myself. But let me just look at one more thing. I don't actually feel particularly, any need to save this iteration of the game. Let me look up, just grab my most recent save from partway into the game. And I won't progress the story anywhere. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I just wanted to talk about one other aspect of the game that I really like. Cloudcraft wondered if the names of my saved games were generated by the game, and no, I named all of these after different things that were going on during the game. I came up with all of these actually, and you can feel free to judge me however you like based on the names of my saved games. Okay, so here is actually my strongest evidence for how interesting and weird this game is. Most games, I just try to give my saved games straightforward, informative names. I get into such a sort of a weird, creative writing mindset playing this game because it's so strange and it's just so surprising every step of the way. I want to be as creative as this game, and so I can't just give a workaday name to any of my saved games. I have to name them weird things, and all of these are relevant to what's going on in the story at the time that I wrote them. So there we go. Anyway, continuing. The thing I want to show you is the thoughts screen, the thought cabinet. So you've got a certain number of slots here for thoughts that you can have. And there's a bunch of different ones that are available. And basically the way that a thought works is as you make choices that satisfy a particular skill or get into situations that feed into one of your skills, that skill, that part of your personality will sort of bubble to the surface and provide you with an opportunity to consider a thought. And what the thoughts are like, just when you realize something about yourself, or you realize something about your ideology, or you have sort of an idea about the way the world works that you didn't think about it when you were younger, but you came upon it later on in life, and you mulled it over for a while, and you feel like it changed you in some way. Like your approach to life changed. Like maybe you changed religions, or you changed political parties, or you realized that you believed that ancient aliens were real, or you think, oh, I'm this kind of person. This is who I am. And so when I relate to other people in these weird ways, instead of just habitually just responding however I want to, I have an idea now in my head of who I am, and that informs my interactions with other people. Anything like that you could develop in life, that's what these thoughts are. And so these are one of the major ways that you develop yourself as a character. So for instance, one of them that I decided not to go with was communism. I forgot what it's called. One of these down here is basically you talk to a bunch of union organizers and they sell you on the idea of communism, and you can decide whether you want to become a communist. And if you become a communist, then you get communism here, which will give you some skill advantages, some disadvantages, but then it'll also open up new conversation options and things like that for you in the game, and you can really just sort of lean into that and define yourself as a communist. So the ones that I've got, the 15th Indo tribe, for instance, 10 cents for every green orb clicked. This is basically saying you end up developing some weird connection with an underclass of like pickpockets and beggars in the city, and basically you just start finding money everywhere, which is an interesting. It's probably the weirdest one I've got. Kingdom of Conscience. This means that you're kind of a sort of a pragmatic moralist. So politically, you're not a communist and you're not like a libertarian. You're somewhere in the middle. You're sort of one of those like nuanced. I'm so proud of finding the nuance in everything type people, which is very much like I am. And so I decided to pick that one. You can become a radical free market person or a radical communist if you want to, but this affects your options in political discussions and things. And it also raises your learning caps for particular skills. Volumetric shit compressor. I forgot what this was. Okay, so I can basically endure anything. Okay, so this is something I got because my endurance was so low. The game provided me with an ability to get past endurance checks if I was willing to give up one of my thoughts. So basically, I was able to sort of get myself into a mindset where I can just sort of handle anything. Like, for instance, approaching a stinky dead body without throwing up. And so because I was willing to give one of my slots for this, I don't have to constantly level up my endurance at the expense of my other skills. So some of these, so Cloudcraft asks, what if I want to be a radical mercantilist? I'm like, that might be available. I don't know. This is the kind of world where that could totally work. The world of this game, by the way, I should say, it's a 70s era diesel punk world, sort of. Not really diesel punk. They've got just alternate technology where they'll take a lot of modern things like that we know about, things like computers. They have radio computers, which are basically cloud-based computers that radio to a distant location to do calculations and bring them to you. Things like that. Like technology works in weird ways that are just fundamentally different from the way things developed in our world. But it also it clearly is taking inspiration from like 70s era cop shows and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's great. Rigorous self-critique. This is from me apologizing a lot. I think unlocked this one, which is also very much a part of my personality. Anyway, so this is how you develop your character. You dress them up in the clothes you think are appropriate to give them the bonuses that you want. You develop their internal personality, through different aspects of their personality in different combinations. And then you latch on to ideas that become sort of the defining ideas of your personality. And so basically, you're kind of playing through the process while you're solving a murder mystery and you're getting to know the politics of this world. There's all this storytelling stuff going on. But for me, the central part of it is that I'm defining myself as a character in all of these ways that feel legitimately like what it's like to define yourself as a human being. It's not just, raising stats the way you do in most RPGs. I feel like I'm actually developing an interesting character the way that I feel like when I'm developing as a person, I'm developing myself into an interesting character. And so many of these mechanics feel familiar to me as like, this is what it's like to be a person. Between that and just how cleverly all the dialogue is written, how fun it is to play this character, I'm just blown away. I'm having a really, really great time. And, people have recommended that I play these kinds of top-down old school RPGs before, and each time I try them, I'll get a short distance into them, and I just won't be able to continue. I'll lose interest. I won't have the patience to read through all the dialogue, to keep up with all the lore, and I always feel like, historically, I loved Icewind Dale. I loved the original Fallout games. I loved, games that were this style. Why can't I enjoy them now? Like, what's my deal? And I think I just needed a game that was going to come and surprise me and entertain me with its audacity the way that this game does. Because genre-wise, I had basically given up on games that look and feel like this. But this one is really has come out of nowhere, and it just keeps entertaining me as I'm going through it. So Cloudcraft says, this is all really interesting mechanically and narratively, but my first instinct is to completely treat it as a toy box. So there is a risk of, because there's so many options, wanting to start the game over and play it as different types of characters and see what all the directions it can go and play around with it, is definitely very tempting. I'm having to sort of, in a disciplined way, say, no, I'm going to play through the end of this game, finish it, get some resolution with the character that I feel like is most like me, or at least the way my idealized version of myself, have the real experience as close as I can, and then I've got to move on to something else, because this game could take over my life for a long time. And I want to play the Outer Worlds, but I'm not starting the Outer Worlds until I'm satisfied with this game. Yeah, so Cloudcraft says, yeah, if I get this game, I feel like 90% of play will be me trying to find the craziest thoughts that unlock the craziest options. Yeah, that is basically the best way to play. And even though I felt like I needed to sort of commit to the version of this game, the version of this character that felt most authentic, that's just a thing that I do a lot in any role-playing game that I play. It's such a strong drive inside me that I have to do it first before I can do the other things. The times that I have experimented with crazier options, I've been well rewarded for them, and so I recommend that pretty hard. So I think somebody might have just tried to come into this room, so I should wrap this up as quickly as I can. Cloudcraft says the Outer Worlds does a good job with its progression system while being far more conventional. And the thing is, I don't have a problem with other games not being as weird as Disco Elysium. I doubt Disco Elysium is going to sell as many copies as a lot of the other games that are out there in roughly the same genre, doing the same kinds of things, because it's so weird. And so for me, I am definitely a bit of a xenophile when it comes to video games. I'm specifically looking for the weirdest experiences to sort of get me out of my comfort zone and make me think of game design in different ways. And Disco Elysium is going to be a major influence on me forever going forward. But not everyone is looking for that. So a lot of people are looking for games, for abnegation, for a lot of other reasons. And some people are looking for more action, and you can't do this level of weirdness under the surface unless you're spending a lot of your budget on it. And if you're spending your budget on, moment-to-moment gameplay, things like that, something like this is much harder to do until at least you've seen someone else do it in a simpler setting. So what I'm hoping is that Disco Elysium will set an example that other games will be able to learn from and sort of build on the shoulders of these giants and make other things that maybe, that take other genres and enhance them and deepen them with the lessons that they learned from playing Disco Elysium. Shankiro asks, how many playthroughs do you think it will take to experience all the dialogue options? I don't know. You can max out 2 of your stats at a time. So it's probably a minimum of 2 playthroughs to sort of see probably the most extreme version. So 2 is probably the minimum to see most of it. I'm betting that it would take more to see everything. In fact, it might be functionally impossible to see everything. Though I gotta say, a lot of the impression I've gotten is that a lot of things kind of end up in the same places. Like, there's one solution to a particular crime. One particular thing did happen, and so you'll end up at the same location, the same final ending for a lot of the elements in the game, regardless of what route you took to get there. But sometimes there'll be very different routes. Like, there's one mystery I'm trying to solve about a possible drug trade going on in the area. And I've seen a couple of different opportunities for me to get answers out of people, but both of them felt out of character for me to do them. So I'm looking for a third option. And so, yeah, I'm betting that, I have to choose one, play that one out, and then the other one will sort of lie dormant and won't happen. And so there probably is sort of a 2-way split there, but ultimately I'm going to catch whoever is engaged in the drug trade and do something about it. And so, so I don't know if you'll necessarily feel like you have to do every single thing in order to feel like you've gotten the benefits of the game, because ultimately you'll come to a lot of the same conclusions, I suspect. I don't know. I've only played it once. That's my guess from just seeing what I've been able to see so far. Somebody who knows more about the game could easily tell you something different. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to get out of here because I've stayed... that is not the thing I wanted to hit. I want to hit the thing that makes my face come up. Okay. I'm going to get out of here because I spent way too long on this because I love this game so much. So subscribe and watch other videos and things like that.